Hey everyone, this is your stimulus check update, second stimulus check update, and stimulus package update for Tuesday, September 29th. This video is for those of you on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and VA benefits, and for anyone else that's wondering about the first stimulus check, the second stimulus check, and the stimulus package negotiations. Before I go into the main content of this video, I want to remind those of you that are waiting on the first stimulus check and need to claim dependents, and those that don't file taxes. So if you don't file taxes and you're waiting on the first stimulus check and you need to claim dependents, the deadline to use the non-filers tool to add dependents for the first stimulus check to receive the $500 stimulus for each of your dependents is tomorrow. So make sure you fill out the non-filers form if you are a non-filer and you have not received your first stimulus check and you haven't already filled out the non-filers form. The deadline is tomorrow. This is what I'm going to be talking about in this video today. The stimulus negotiations appear to be resuming today between Stephen Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi. The negotiations broke down back in August and haven't really resumed to any great extent, but it sounds like they are going to start talking again today. So I'm going to be talking about that, but I'm also going to be talking about, we have more of the details of the House stimulus proposal, and that's the $2.2 trillion stimulus proposal. And I will go over how will it affect those of you on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and VA benefits, and also go over the main sticking points and what might keep this deal from going through. If this is the first time to my channel, my name is Justin and I do stimulus check updates. And to those of you that subscribe to my channel, welcome back. Thank you once again for watching. And if you haven't subscribed already, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified each and every time I upload a new video. And if you find this content helpful, please hit the like button so that YouTube will share this video with others. As reported by the Washington Post, Nancy Pelosi and Stephen Mnuchin, according to Nancy Pelosi's spokesperson, are set to meet again this morning, and that's to discuss the next stimulus package. The stimulus talks broke down back in August and really haven't resumed. So this is good. This is great news to hear that they are actually going to start negotiations once again. Back then, Nancy Pelosi had a $2.2 trillion number that she didn't want to come down from, and the White House had about a $1 trillion number that they didn't want to come up from. One of the biggest issues was that there wasn't any line-by-line information on how to spend that $2.2 trillion. Well, we have that now. The House plan has been unveiled, basically. It does sound like we do have a framework for how that $2.2 trillion is going to be spent. Previously, I went over some of the general details of what was in this $2.2 trillion House plan, but we have some more specifics, so I want to go over those and specifically see what could be the sticking points and what could hold up this next stimulus package from going through. This stimulus package is important because it is probably the best chance we have of getting a second stimulus check. And that's why I want to spend so much time on it. So, first off, in this $2.2 trillion plan, there are $1,200 stimulus checks for individuals, including those on SSI, SSDI, Social Security, and VA benefits. In addition to this, it should include $1,200 stimulus checks for those claimed as dependents, no matter what age they are. I haven't had any details specifically about this, but the reason why I believe that it will have $1,200 stimulus checks for dependents is because the HEROES Act had $1,200 stimulus checks for dependents, no matter what age they were. And this bill is a smaller version of the HEROES Act that was passed in the House of Representatives back in May. That was a $3.4 trillion plan, so they've shaved off $1.2 trillion off of that plan. That HEROES Act was flat out rejected by the White House and by the Senate because of the price tag, and that they said that the price tag was way too high. So it'll be interesting to see if this $2.2 trillion plan gets closer, and it does, to what the White House and what the Senate wants to spend. The White House has come out and said that they will spend up to about $1.5 trillion, so they're still about $700 billion apart. But the good news is they are going to be negotiating, and these are the line items that they'll be discussing because this is what's in this plan. First off, $1,200 stimulus checks, like I said, that's not going to be a sticking point because both sides have basically already agreed to send out stimulus checks to individuals. The next thing is a $600 unemployment benefit extension. This was something that the HEROES Act did, renewing the unemployment benefit that expired at the end of July. One of the major sticking points was that $600 was actually paying some people more than they were making on their previous job. So the Republicans in the Senate were saying, hey, why are we trying to pay people on unemployment more than they were making while they were employed? This could still be a little bit of a sticking point. I thought the Problem Solvers Caucus proposal actually did a better job of keeping both sides happy on the unemployment benefit, because it said $450 per week for unemployment for 8 weeks, and then after those 8 weeks, it would be tied to the previous amount of the person's employment or their previous job, up to $600 per week. So as long as they were making $600 per week or more, they would receive $600 per week. If they didn't make $600 per week, they would make less than that $600 per week, up to how much they were making at their previous job. The House Democrats were complaining that this would put an excessive burden on states to try and calculate each worker's previous pay in order to pay out their unemployment benefits. That's why I think the Problem Solvers Caucus giving that 8 week of $450 per week, that's basically a time period when states could use to calculate what each worker's previous pay was in order to pay out these unemployment benefits. That's why I thought the Problem Solvers Caucus proposal was such a good idea. So we will see if the $600 per week unemployment benefit extension that's called for in this House plan, if that is a sticking point or not, because it could be. This bill would also include Paycheck Protection Program funding, increasing that Paycheck Protection Program funding for small businesses. I know multiple people personally that were laid off from their job because of the pandemic. So more funding for small businesses to keep more people on and to stay open is key, and I think both sides agree on this, so this shouldn't be a sticking point in the next negotiations. This bill would also provide $182 billion for funding for K through 12 schools, as well as $39 billion for colleges and universities. Both sides agree for funding for schools, so this should be a sticking point as well. In addition to funding for schools, it also includes a provision for $57 billion to help with childcare costs. This bill would also provide $32 billion to help the airline industries keep people on payroll so they don't have to lay off or furlough more employees. Previous aid that was for the airline industries is set to expire tomorrow, September 30th. This would mean that tens of thousands of airline employees would lose their jobs or be furloughed for an extended period of time. Both sides seem to agree that the airline industry does need some help, so this is probably something that's not going to hold up negotiations. The largest amount of any item in this bill is $436 billion for funding to help states and local governments that have had budget problems and financial problems because of the pandemic. This was one of the biggest sticking points in the previous negotiations, as the HEROES Act called for $1 trillion of funding. But they've basically cut that to less than half of what they were asking for before, so this may be a little bit more reasonable for the Trump administration and the Republicans in the Senate. So it'll be interesting to see if this continues to be a sticking point or not. Some of the Senate plans were much lower amount than $436 billion, but at least it has come down well below that $1 trillion mark that was in the HEROES Act. One thing that is noticeably absent from this proposal that was in the HEROES Act is hazard pay for essential workers. It does sound like hazard pay has been left out, and there are a few other provisions that have been left out of this bill that were in the HEROES Act as well, in the interest of saving monies to get that cost down. As I've discussed previously on my channel, Nancy Pelosi has been feeling pressure from moderate Democrats to lower her number from $2.2 trillion to try and get closer to the number of what the Senate would actually pass. And the reason for this is many of these moderate Democrats are up for re-election and are worried that if they don't pass a stimulus package, that they're going to be losing their seat or that they're going to lose their elections. So we'll see if some of that pressure will move Nancy Pelosi a little lower than that $2.2 trillion number. The Trump administration has said that they will come up to about $1.5 trillion, and so they are still about $700 billion apart. So some of those line items I talked about a little bit before on the sticking points, those are the things that we'll be watching closely to see how negotiations go. But the good news is negotiations are resuming finally. It's been since the 1st of August that they've really done any sort of negotiating. But they should be meeting again today, Stephen Mnuchin and Nancy Pelosi. So that is good news. And now they at least have line by line items they can go over and say, okay, this is where I don't agree with you, and this is what we can propose, and they can try and work together for a solution. I know so many of you are hurting. I read your comments. I read that some of you are getting thrown out of your house because you can't pay for rent, that many of you don't have money for food, and it breaks my heart. So I'm really hoping that Congress can put their politics aside, that they can come together and actually reach an agreement that both sides agree to and get help to you guys, the American people. I know that a $1,200 stimulus check isn't going to be a lot, but it would be something, and it would at least give you some money to help with food and with housing and with the basic necessities of life. I do appreciate each and every one of you for watching my videos. I know many of you are struggling, and I'm so sorry for that. If there's anything else I can do, let me know. Let me know if there's something else you want to hear about in these videos, or something that you're wondering about. Leave a question for me in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer it in the comments or in a future video. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you again soon.